All right, so let's go over my Week 10 picks in the NFL. This is like the first time I had a really bad week. I went 6-7 apparently, which is just rough. So the Thursday night football game was the Chargers at Raiders. The Chargers, honestly, they could have won that game easily. Phillip Rivers had a very rough game, like 3 interceptions. The last drive, I think he finished the game with 7 straight incompletions. It was just not a good look for him whatsoever. The Raiders pass rush was pretty good in this game as well. Josh Jacobs capped it off with a game-winning touchdown. The Lions at Bears, we heard, I think, Sunday morning that Matt Stafford was not going to play. I picked the Bears anyway. I thought this was a good spot for the Bears and their defense, and they took that game pretty easily, I would say, for the most part. I mean, the Lions almost had to come back at the end there, but the Hail Mary, whatever it was, fell short. I think there was a play Jeff Driscoll threw above the line of scrimmage, so it didn't count. There was a flag on them. That was the game right there. Ravens and Bengals was not even close. Lamar Jackson was doing some more video game type stuff in that game, so that was really cool to see. The Cardinals at Bucks, that was a fun game, honestly. A lot of offense. That's what we expected in that one. Christian Kirk had 3 touchdowns for the Cardinals. Jameis Winston did just enough for them, and Ronald Jones has looked good for them as well at the running back position. Buccaneers took that one. The Chiefs at Titans, maybe the surprise of the week, honestly. This was a great game for the Titans. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's looked great. He scored over 20 points in every game offensively since he's been the starter. And the Chiefs definitely have some issues, especially their run defense is just absolutely horrible right now. So the Chiefs in the playoffs are definitely going to have issues if teams can run like that against them. I mean, Derrick Henry had somewhere in the high 100s for yards. It was 170, 180, 160. I don't know. It was a lot of yards, though, for him. The Bills at Browns, I figured the Browns would win this one because for some reason Vegas loved the Browns this week, and I figured I might as well just tail them. And it made sense for the Bills to win this game, and they almost did, honestly. Freddie Kitchens at one point in the game had 9 plays from the 1-yard line. They couldn't get in the end zone. It was just absolutely ridiculous. So luckily, the Browns took that one for their sake, and it's a tough loss for the Bills, but they're still in the wild card spot right now. The Giants at Jets, Giants defense is still just completely awful. Both young quarterbacks look good in that game, but really the Giants defense is what let them down, and of course their offensive line as well. The Falcons at Saints, this one was the surprise of the week. It was a -14 for the Saints. Don't know what happened. There was a rumor apparently that Sean Payton got engaged on Friday, and maybe his mind was off the game or something like that, but you can't use that as a total excuse for this game. I mean, this was absolutely crazy. I really don't know what happened. I don't know how you hold this team to 9 points. This was the first or the lowest amount of points that the Drew Brees era Saints have been held in the Superdome. I mean, it's amazing. 9 points is the lowest he's ever been held in the Superdome, so that's really awesome for the Falcons defense. Dan Quinn gave up the play calling duties apparently, and look what happens. I'm not saying he's a crappy coach, but whatever. Anyway, the Dolphins at Colts. This was another surprising one. The Colts couldn't get much going on offense. I think the Dolphins got off to a pretty quick lead in this one, so don't know how it happened. Their running back position, Kalen Ballage had an awful game efficiency-wise, but they got it done with guys like Devontae Parker. I think Mike Gesicki scored a touchdown in this one as well, so the Dolphins, 2 in a row. Who would have guessed? The Rams at Steelers, I mean, the Steelers' defense was the whole story of this game. They were absolutely crazy. Minkah Fitzpatrick had another touchdown in this game. He's had an amazing year for the Steelers since being traded over there, and Jared Goff looks terrible. The offensive line for the Rams looks terrible, all that kind of stuff. So they are not in a good spot right now. The Panthers at Packers, that one I actually got right. So I picked the Packers. It was a close game throughout. It was the first snow game of the year. There was some light snow showers, I guess you can call them. It was a fun game to watch. It came down to the wire, literally the wire. They were down 8, the Panthers, and Christian McCaffrey missed getting into the end zone by just maybe 6 inches or something like that. So they had a chance to go for the 2-point conversion if that counted, but the Packers took that one by 8 points. The Vikings at Cowboys, I was all over the Vikings this week. Even without Adam Thielen, for some reason, I just was not buying into what the Cowboys were doing. They've had, they've had a lot of wins this year, the Cowboys. They have 5, but at the same time, one of them was impressive. The others were not too impressive. So that's the one thing that I have to say about the Cowboys. I mentioned that in one of my other videos. I mean, they have 4 wins that are not too impressive in my mind. So Dalvin Cook looked great. Trying to think who else. Kyle Rudolph had a great game at the tight end position for them as well. And the Seahawks at Niners, Game of the Year candidate. This was awesome. Of course, the Seahawks take this one in overtime, very late in overtime. There's not really much to say about this game. It was just crazy. A lot of back and forth. Once Emmanuel Sanders went out for the 49ers, the whole offense and the whole complexity of that game changed. They didn't have George Kittle either, so not really fair for the Niners offense. They really didn't have many weapons on the outside, but the Seahawks, they did enough to win. Josh Gordon had a few big catches in this game. There was the rookie kicker for the Niners was making big kicks, and then he shanked the potential game winner, and then the Seahawks come down and win it later. So that was an awesome game. It was an awesome week of football. Not a good week for me though. It's 6-7, but I'm still 94-53-1 on the year, which I guess is respectable. So hopefully I do better this week, and let's make the NFL Week 11 picks. All right, so we start with the Pittsburgh Steelers at Cleveland Browns Thursday Night Football. For some reason, the Browns are favored. I guess it makes sense. They are at home. They had a pretty good showing last week. They obviously had some rough goal line stands against them, but I don't know. Pittsburgh I feel like they let it all out there on Sunday against the Rams. So part of me wants to pick Cleveland. I could very well be wrong about this, but I trust Cleveland to move the ball. I like how their offense looked with Kareem Hunt implemented. They played him and Nick Chubb on the field at the same time a lot. Seemed like it was working for them. So I'm going to pick Cleveland. Could be wrong about it. I'm not too confident in this, but I have to make a pick, so I'm going to go with the Browns in this one. All right, so on the Sunday's games, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the Detroit Lions. We're not sure right now if Matt Stafford's playing or not. I would say no. If it's a back fracture, I feel like it would take more than just 1 week to get over this thing. So they might hold him out the rest of the year for all I know. But right now, it's Dallas -5. I feel pretty confident in that one. I think Dallas wins this one by at least a touchdown. Of course, it'd be a lot different if Stafford was playing. I personally would be very tempted to pick the Lions if that were the case, but I personally think Jeff Driscoll's going to start, so we'll see what happens with that. But I think Dallas should win this game. It's a game, they are favored by 5 points. So I think they should take this. Not sure how Detroit has a consistent offense against this defense. Jeff Driscoll looked all right last week, but definitely not Matt Stafford level. So we'll see if Detroit can get anything going on offense. They don't have a run game either. One of their running backs, Ty Johnson, has a concussion also. So not sure how they're going to be able to move the ball consistently. I think Dallas will be able to do enough offensively. This could be a big Ezekiel Elliott game. The Lions have struggled against the run this year. So going to pick with Dallas to win this one by at least a touchdown. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars visiting the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, the Colts are favored by 2.5 points, but I'm going to pick Jacksonville to win this game, so Nick Foles should be back, obviously. For some reason, I just like Jacksonville's offense more right now. Of course, the Colts have the better offensive line, as we know, but the Colts still probably won't have T.Y. Hilton, and, I just don't really trust them with Zach Pascal as their number one receiver. They lost the last 2 weeks, one to the Dolphins. I forget who they lost to 2 weeks ago. Now I forget. The one Vinatieri missed a field. It might have been a Steelers game, honestly, so maybe that one, whatever it was. But Indy has not looked great recently. Jacksonville, I feel like they get their quarterback back, and they have a great running game with Leonard Fournette this year. They have good outside weapons with Chark and Conley, who am I forgetting? Dede Westbrook as well. So I feel like Jacksonville should win this game. I don't know why the Colts are favored in this one. It doesn't really make sense to me, I guess, because they're home. But I don't know. I feel like Jacksonville's going to take this one, so I'm going to pick them to win this game outright. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills visit the Miami Dolphins in AFC East matchup. The Buffalo Bills are favored by 6.5 points on the road. I feel like right now it's a bit dangerous to pick against the Miami Dolphins after winning 2 games in a row, but I'm going to go with the Bills in this one. I feel like their defense will be able to stop Miami's offense. Hopefully, Ryan Fitzpatrick makes some mistakes in this one. Miami has no running game going for them whatsoever. Kalen Ballage had like 20 carries for 38 rushing yards last game, so not worried about their running attack, and I just, I know Josh Allen has his own turnover issues, but they should be able to run the ball with Singletary. Hopefully John Brown can make some big plays on offense for them, but Buffalo, of course, has the better defense. They probably have the better offensive line as well. Quarterback matchup, maybe you can call it even right now, but I'm going to go with Buffalo to win this game. I like them, with the defense and the running game, all that kind of stuff, so I think they should win this game. Will they win by a touchdown? I'm not sure. I feel like they'd win this game by like 3 or 4 points, so maybe if I was betting the spread, I'd probably pick Miami, but I'm going to pick Buffalo to win this one outright. Next, we have the Denver Broncos, I believe, coming off a bye. They'll be at Minnesota. Minnesota's a -10.5 favorite in this one. I think Minnesota has a bye next week, so Adam Thielen probably won't play in this game. There's really no point in risking it, so I don't think they'll have him. But still, I bet the Minnesota Vikings already. I think they'll win this game pretty comfortably, at least by 2 touchdowns. I think Dalvin Cook will have a huge game in this one. Denver's run D has not been that great this year. I just don't know how Denver moves the ball, honestly. I mean, the Vikings defense, especially at home, is very, very good. This offense goes through Philip Lindsay, and they're a very good run defense. They've been able to be passed on this year. Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes, those type of guys have not had the best year so far, but I don't really trust Brendan Allen to go into Minnesota and put up a great game. So he did beat the Browns last week, I understand, or 2 weeks ago, but I just don't see. I mean, the Browns in Minnesota have a very different defense, and this time they're at home. Denver was at home 2 weeks ago when they won their game, so it's the first road start for Brendan Allen. I think it might be a rough one, so I'm going to pick Minnesota to cover this 10.5 point spread, and of course win the game outright. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints coming off that very bad loss at Atlanta. They're a -5.5 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers coming off a victory against the Arizona Cardinals, where I believe they were at home last week as well. So I think this is a get-right game for the Saints. I mean, the Buccaneers' pass defense has been atrocious. They just released Vernon Hargreaves, their former first-round pick from a few years ago. So not sure what this secondary is going to do. Drew Brees just has to have a good game against this team, which I think he'll be able to do. Of course, Drew Brees on the road is not home Drew Brees, but still, he's a very good quarterback regardless, so I think they'll be fine. Maybe Alvin Kamara finally has a big game here in the receiving game. I'm sure Michael Thomas will have a huge game as well. Jared Cook against a defense that can't cover tight ends, so we'll see if he gets any touchdowns or something like that in this game. So Tampa Bay's offense. The thing about this game that scares me, though, is Marshawn Lattimore, the shutdown corner, might not play in this game, and he's definitely got the better of Mike Evans in their matchups the last couple of years, so that definitely will help the Tampa Bay offense, but I still think New Orleans has a much better defense overall, even without Lattimore, so gonna pick New Orleans to win this game. I think they cover the spread as well. I think I bet them already as well, so I don't know. I mean, Tampa Bay, they're just a few turnovers away from just being out of this game completely, and you never know with Jameis Winston, so gonna pick New Orleans to win this game, cover the spread, all that type of stuff. I like them a lot this week. The New York Jets at the Washington Redskins, two teams that will not make the playoffs this year. For some reason, I'm just kind of torn on this game. I don't know who to pick. Personally, I think the Jets have the better roster right now, but I could see Washington win this game. I mean, Dwayne Haskins is getting the start once again. I'm not a Dwayne Haskins believer, was not a fan of his. I thought he was a little overrated coming out of college, so I'm going to go with the Jets to win this one, go back-to-back wins. I mean, that'd be very impressive for them. Of course, they're bringing Adam Gase back, and I'm sure I heard some of the players are excited about that. So I feel like the Jets have some good mojo going right now. Washington coming off, I think they're coming off a bye. They came off that loss in Buffalo a couple weeks ago, so they were competitive in that game. I'll give them that. Would not shock me if Washington won this game. Of course, they're favored to win this game anyway, but I think right now the Jets have a better, just a better roster overall. Sam Darnold looked pretty good last week. Maybe this is a game where Le'Veon Bell finally can get going, so I'm going to pick the Jets to win this one outright and, of course, cover that 1 point spread. Next, we have Atlanta. They are visiting the Carolina Panthers, so the Falcons coming off that huge win last week against New Orleans. Nobody expected that, I don't think. And, right now, Carolina 5.5 point favorites. I mean, Atlanta does have a big loss with Austin Hooper. Their tight end's going to be out for, I think, at least a few weeks with an MCL sprain or something like that. They're also without Devonta Freeman, their running back, but they have no running game anyway, so I don't think it'll impact them that much. But I do think Carolina wins this game and covers. I, for some reason, like them more. Carolina was very close to going to overtime with Green Bay last week, so it's a good showing for them. I think Christian McCaffrey should just have a monster game in this one. I like their receivers. I like their offense. Kyle Allen should have a nice game in this one because I'm not buying Atlanta's defense off of one game. We saw enough games this year where their defense looked pitiful, and I understand Dan Quinn gave up the play calling, which could be huge, but still, I'm sure some of it's a talent issue as well, so I think Kyle Allen will be fine in this game. Christian McCaffrey should just have a monster one, so going to go with the Panthers to win this game and cover that 5.5 point spread. Next, we have a good one. It's the Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Right now, the Ravens are 4-point favorites, which makes sense. They're at home. I think Houston's coming off a bye in this one, so they do get Will Fuller, their wide receiver, back, which definitely could help. And I don't know. For some reason, I think Baltimore's going to win this game and cover the spread. I mean, I understand 4 points is a decent amount, but Baltimore's just rolling right now. I mean, they do beat up on the really bad teams. I don't know how they'll do against this Houston defense, but I think they'll be fine. I mean, Lamar Jackson just right now, top 2 obviously in the MVP conversation next to Russell Wilson, so I don't know. For some reason, I mean, of course, I root for the Texans. I had them winning the division this year, so I've been picking the Texans a lot this year, but Baltimore's been very impressive. I mean, Baltimore's defense isn't anything great, but at the same time, I think their offense will do enough to win this game by the 4-point spread, so I could be wrong about this. I could see Houston winning this as well and having a big win, but I'm going to go with Baltimore to win this one. They've been impressive the last few weeks, so I have them winning this game and covering the 4-point spread as well. We have the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, the 49ers are favored by 10.5 points, I just saw. So I bet this game. Love the Cardinals to cover the spread. Still think the Niners win this game, but it would not shock me if the Cardinals pulled this one out somehow. So there's no George Kittle. It looks like he's listed doubtful for this game. And we don't know about Emmanuel Sanders yet. He's like week to week. I don't know if he'll play or not. So if they don't have Kittle or Sanders, we saw how badly that messed up the Niners offense on Monday Night Football. So if they don't have those guys, I think the Cardinals might win this game. So we'll see what Sanders' injury comes down to on Sunday. So as I said, I think it'll be close. Arizona's offense really impresses me. I love what Kingsbury's been doing with this team. I mean, last year they were just pitiful. I understand Kyler Murray was not there yet, but he's turned this whole offense around, and they're just, a pretty efficient offense for the most part. So I really like what he's doing over there. San Francisco, I mean, they have their issues right now offensively. They lost their middle linebacker, Quan Alexander. That seemed to be somewhat of a big loss because Chris Carson was having a nice game on the ground. So we'll see if David Johnson finally, or maybe Kenyon Drake. I think Chase Edmonds might be back this week if they can have a game on the ground. So I don't know. I just feel like San Francisco right now just does not have the firepower they did a couple weeks ago. Of course, George Kittle is a huge loss. I think the Cardinals cover the spread. I think they lose this game by like 3 or 4 points, but I do have the Niners winning this one outright. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Oakland Raiders. Right now, the Raiders are favored by 10.5 points. Cincinnati's not looked good at all. I mean, you can tell they're just throwing in the towel. They want to get the first overall pick. You can tell because they were down most of that game in Baltimore. But their running back, Joe Mixon, still had 30 carries, so they really didn't care about the game script whatsoever. They're just going to run their offense regardless of the score. I don't know. I don't know if Oakland's good enough to cover a 10.5 point spread. That's a lot. But Cincinnati's that bad, so I think Oakland will cover this game. I have Oakland winning this game, of course. Of course, the big question is, do they cover the spread? I think they do. I think Josh Jacobs will have a huge game in this one. Maybe Darren Waller can finally get things going for the first time in a few weeks. But Cincinnati's offense, I mean, Ryan Finley looked all right last week. Not terrific by any means, but kind of reminds me of Mason Rudolph and the type of conservative offense they have in Pittsburgh right now. But Cincinnati's defense is nowhere near Pittsburgh, obviously. So looks like A.J. Green is still out. Definitely hurts them. Maybe Joe Mixon once again has a decent game that can help, but I just don't think they have enough firepower offensively to keep up with the Raiders. And their offensive line for Cincinnati is banged up. We've known that since the first few weeks of the season. And the Oakland Raiders have gotten a good pass rush this year, so I'm going to go with maybe they get to Finley just 4 or 5 times and sack him a good amount. So I'll go with Oakland to cover the spread and of course win the game outright. This next game has the potential to be a very good one. The New England Patriots coming off a bye at the Philadelphia Eagles. Right now, the Patriots are favored by 3.5 points. I don't know. I want to go with the Patriots because I can't pick against Belichick coming off a bye and a loss at the same time. I feel like he's not going to lose 2 games in a row, having 2 weeks to prep for this team. He'll do the right thing. He'll shut down Zach Ertz. He'll make guys like Alshon Jeffrey and Dallas Goedert and, who else they have? Nelson Aguilar try to beat them. I don't know if they'll get the running game going. I mean, Jordan Howard's been all right this year, and so has Miles Sanders. I mean, he's been a better receiver than running back, but I don't know if Philadelphia's going to have enough offense to win this game, but New England should be fine. We know that the Eagles' secondary has been awful this year, and it just hasn't been getting any better, so I have no reason to think otherwise. Mohamed Sanu looked very good in that Baltimore game, so he's fit in nicely. They get N'Keal Harry back finally, so I think New England's offense will be fine. They're healthy now, so I'm going to go with them to win this game and cover that 3.5 point spread. This week's Sunday Night Football game is the Chicago Bears at the LA Rams. I think these guys played a Sunday night game last year, but it was in Chicago. I forget who won that game. That was the game where the Rams offense started to just take a nosedive for the worst. I mean, it was bad. That's when things got really bad for them. Of course, Chicago's defense was great last year, but still. So the Rams are favored by 6.5 points. They did not look good against Pittsburgh last week whatsoever. I feel like this is a lot of points, but it helps the Rams because they're at home. Jared Goff is a much better player at home. Don't know what Sean McVay was doing last week. I think Todd Gurley deserved more carries. I don't even think he touched the ball in the fourth quarter in that game, and he was having a pretty good game on the ground for the most part. So maybe they rely on the running attack more in this one to have a more balanced offense. You can't have Jared Goff chucking the ball 40, 50 times a game and expect to win in most cases. So Chicago's pass defense is still very good. Since losing Akeem Hicks, they've had not as good of a run defense, obviously. So we'll see if the Rams can get things going on the ground. But I think the Rams still win this game, but I do think Chicago covers the 6.5 point spread. So I could be wrong about that. I'm not too confident in it, but 6.5 points for a team like the Rams, who have just a lot of holes on their team right now, especially the offensive line, I feel like can be an issue. So I think Chicago covers, but I think the Rams win this game outright. So lastly, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the LA Chargers. I mean, the Chargers have extended rest in this game coming off Thursday night. The Chiefs had that rough loss against the Tennessee Titans at home. So I think the Chiefs, they get right in this game. I think they win this game by like 6 or 7 points or so. I like the Chiefs to cover the spread here. The Chargers, I mean, Phillip Rivers does not look right, honestly. I know the Chiefs defense is horrible. If the Chargers are smart, they'll try to run the ball a lot with Melvin Gordon. We'll see if they can keep this game close and kind of just win the time of possession here and force Mahomes to be efficient. I would not bet against that, but still, I think the Chiefs win this game outright and of course cover that spread as well. So I don't know. Hopefully it's a good game. I think it should be a good game. It's the same division. I mean, if the Chargers lose this game, their season's definitely over at this point. If the Chiefs lose and they go to 6-5, I think it would be, it's definitely concerning for them. I mean, you'll be talking about them even making the playoffs at that point, especially if the Raiders win their game. Or when the Raiders win their game, I should say. So that'll be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know some of your favorite picks for the week and stuff like that, and I will talk to you guys next time.